Welcome back. Today we're looking at the Chemical Brothers' The Sunshine Underground. This is from the classic album Surrender, released in 1999. This track was, in some ways, I've nailed it, and in other ways, I can't get close to it. So join me and let's look at the samples, the synths, and the secrets that went into making this classic track. Checking on Trusty Who Sampled, I found the main sample that this track was built around. So let's have a little listen from just before the sample comes in. This is this track, Asian Workshop by James Asher. So let's have a listen. So there we have it. Let's have a listen to the original track. So we've just literally got a loop. We've got a 2-bar loop. Basically the track, I don't think they played around with the pitch too much. So the track's at 140 BPM, but a bit like Song of Life, it starts off in kind of half time. Basically it's like 70 BPM, and then it goes into the faster bit at the end. But yeah, they just slowed the track down to match, to get to 140 basically. So I've just got the repitch mode on Ableton. Instead of using a sampler, I'm just looping the bars. Here's my version. So far, so good. If you'd like to know exactly what kit was used in nearly all of these classic tracks and the best modern software alternatives, check out this free PDF in the description. Then we just have a few cymbals coming in. Let's have a listen to the original. So we just got a couple of nice little ride cymbals. So the track just builds up quite slowly, just mainly this loop happening and the cymbals. After 16 bars, we drop in with this. So we've got a couple of sounds coming in. The most noticeable is the flute. I tried 1 or 2 different sounds, but I must say, I did think when I heard that flute, I thought, do you think that's a mellotron? So you know Strawberry Fields Forever famously has, you may or may not know, but there's quite a famous early kind of electronic instrument. It's kind of the first sampler which used tape, and each key you pressed made a tape start and stop. Called a mellotron. Famously, it was used by the Beatles on Strawberry Fields Forever. It's like a flute sample. So I thought I'd try that. I called up my trusty Arturia mellotron. This is what I got. So this is the original. And this is my version. Pretty close. I was pretty happy with that. So all it is this simple. And in a way, it's just like that. It's just a simple phrase just going up, but it's starting on the second one instead of starting there. The other sound we've got, which isn't so easy to hear, we've got a kind of a chord. I always do a lot of research for these tracks, trying to find out how things were done, and I found a great thread, maybe a couple, on Gearspace. Someone there was saying that they used a synth called an Oberheim expander, which I think is basically this synth, the Matrix 12. And there was some great info about how to program it and stuff to get the rich kind of modulation and stuff. So I've got to say, I'm not very comfortable with it. It's a little bit obscure to me exactly how to route everything and how to do it. But I got a little bit more familiar and created this sound. And this is the basic melody that's introduced. We've got the sample going, just repeating, obviously. And then this happens in the bass as well, just A, D, A. A for 4 bars, D for 2 bars, A for 2 bars. I feel like I'm quite close. Some more. Then we get this beautiful sound coming in, which I didn't really manage to get. I love it. So the strings coming in. So I used a D50, Roland D50 plugin. It's a classic synth from the 80s. It was very widely used. Yeah, I used a string patch and I got close-ish. I think all I did really was did like an A chord. I basically did a version of an A chord. And I've got it's like an A major chord. Instead of this would be a normal A major chord. The fifth would be here on this E, but instead of that, I've got an extra A at the top, so just the octave, and I've got the fifth up an octave. So instead of here, it's here, and it's a bit quieter because I didn't want it to be too powerful. And then I've got the same chord here. What do you think? Let me know. This is what it sounds like. So then we kick in with that beautiful drop. One of my frustrations with making this tune is that the Chemical Brothers are kind of known for their amazing sound design, their amazing studio techniques. It's fascinating to read about if you look online, and you can only imagine, they've got rooms of synths and effects and engineers and time and but they've got this beautiful sound coming in. And I haven't. But the drop, so I'm quite happy with my drop there. So we've just got a simple bass. I absolutely love this patch, TUC Deep Sub. Big up to the person who made that patch. I use it all the time. But I found it fitted really well here. So we've just got this same A, D, A melody. And then we've just got quite a simple boom, boom, solo. Gets us pretty close. So I don't have, like, for example, here, there's a lovely effect coming in. Okay, then we have the vocal. So this was a nice surprise to me. Let's have a look at who sampled. So this is what I use to find samples. I'm not clever enough to find them on my own. This says sample appears at 128. Let's have a little listen. Sun comes down on our way. So that On Our Way is what they sampled. And I was really surprised because I actually love this album. My friend Robin lent it to me when I was getting into indie music. When I was in my late teens, I was a massive indie kid, or became one. And this, Up to Our Hips, absolutely fantastic album. For me, it's really by far and away the Charlatans' best album. And I know it quite well. And I never had an idea that that was from there. The problem is, if you listen to this, there's drums all over it. So it cannot be that they sampled this track directly. So I actually Googled Patrol, which is the name of this track, a cappella. And what came up was the Chemical Brothers remix of that tune. I had a listen to that, and there's a part of the tune with that vocal on its own. That's how I managed to recreate this. This is from the Chemical Brothers mix. So I managed to find a part with it isolated. So I've just got this looped over 4 bars, and it's just starting here. And it's actually, the loop starts after the loop point, if you see what I mean. So we've got way. And that's what happens in the record. So that's cool. I was really happy about that. Sounds more or less the same. So what did they do? So there's no warping or anything. Yeah, so what I did for this, I played it in A. So that's the pitch of the original track. And I just found if you press it, if you hit it on the A, then you get this same pitch, I think. Then we've got some mad effects. Which I couldn't possibly just make exactly the same. But again, on Gearspace, someone mentioned that that same effects was used on a different track called We Are the Night. The Chemical Brothers used that sound right at the beginning, more or less soloed. So I was able to put that in. I believe they used a Sherman filter bank a lot, and I really want one now. A lot of distortion, a lot of resonance. Then we've got a very fast LFO that starts very fast and then it gets slowed down. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that is from a Sherman filter bank. And then we get some more drums coming in, these samba drums. So in recreating this, I was thinking that sounds like a samba band. I actually learnt a couple of things about samba, namely what the drums are called. And this drum is called a Rhythmic. Please correct me if I'm wrong about that pronunciation, but more or less this sound. It's not exactly the same as they've got. It's a bit quieter here, and they become louder in the record. So they just come in fairly soft. And then we have this next drop. So we're really just building, aren't we? They're building on top of what they've got. We've got the drums come in a bit louder. And then we've got this cool sound coming in, this I got a rough approximation of this sound, which is this. Which sounds a bit weird, but in the context, it's not too far off, I think. So what I'd used for that was Diva, and I'm using the Moog oscillator with some FM, some frequency modulation to get that kind of harsh sound. So without it, we've got that, and then I do think that's something close to the timbre of that. So we've got the Asian Workshop sample coming back in. We've also got these cymbals, which is more or less what the track's doing. Got this crash on the 4. Well, no, on the 1, the 3, the 1 and the 3. And then on the 2 and the 4, a ride. We've got the drums a bit louder, and we've got this samba. Yeah, this expander thing is kind of going throughout the track. And then here, this changes. It kind of goes to double speed. Instead of going da 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 da, it goes da 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 da. So also, I forgot to mention on this, I've got a bit of distortion, but I've also got this pan man because the sound in their track is being panned from left to right. You can hear it going from one speaker to the other. So let's have a listen. So then here the drums change, so we start to loop. Instead of having this kick snare pattern, we just have the kicks. So we've gone from this just 1 bar loop to just half a bar loop. So it's really like hypnotic, isn't it? It's just building, just quite repetitive, but just adding little bits or changing bits. So like, for example, the next thing to change is the samba drums change up. So let's listen to the original, but looking at the programming that I did. So we've got do-do-do-dum-dum-dum-dum. So another one I learnt, another drum I learnt was the surdo. So this is quite a rough approximation, but it's a little bit like it. So we're just building and building. Then we've got a new pattern with the samba. We've got the strings coming back in. Tension and release. It's like just tension, building. It's such a long build up. We've got all of this. How many bars is it? I don't know, a lot of bars. Building and building to the drop. Oh, I love that drop. It's such a release, isn't it? That's what that's what music's about, isn't it? Tension and release. So it's just done so well. They're building you up. Oh, you're in a state of tension, and then just let go. And that's what makes it such a kind of exciting track to listen to and obviously dance to. Wasn't quite as close, I would say, in this half of the track as I was in the first, but there's a few samples. One of them is this track, Thomas Chrome, The Real Jazz, and I actually found this on SoundCloud. So I found this on Who Sampled, but that's this sound. They've affected it a bit differently. But what have we got going on? So we've got the flute stays in, the cymbals change a bit, and we've just got mainly this crash and these rides. We had them on the 2 and the 4, but now we've got them on the offbeat, so like twice as fast. Got the flute, the expander stays in. We've got this fast kick, just kind of a more of a... And we have this bass. I didn't get that close, so I've sidechained this bass. And it's being panned, which I don't actually want. This is again programmed in the Matrix 12V. It doesn't probably sound like that in the drop, but when everything drops out a bit later on here, it's got this bass. So that's what I've kind of gone for, hit my bass. It's a little bit similar. And then one thing I always loved about this part was these ting, ting sounds. It's like from this, in the musical spectrum, that's really high, tingy, nice sounds. So again, I learned something. I thought, oh, that sounds like one of those little hand bells. So I googled Tibetan bell. Apparently it's called a tingsha. So I got a few tingsha samples. and I put them through, I compressed them a little bit, rolled off a tiny bit of high end, and then I used Soundtour. So I used this crystallizer, which is like this, it's called like a granular echo. So if I turn off this reverb, if I turn it off, fairly boring, but with it, in fact, I'll just turn off the phase. It's kind of got this zip, zip, it kind of reverses part of it, and then I added some phaser, which actually sounds pretty nice, I think. And then I used this black hole delay, black hole reverb, which is quite famous. It's a massive reverb, basically. So I've actually got closer than I thought I would be able to get with that. I'm quite happy with that. And again, they've got a lot of their nice effects happening to keep the interest going. So this is where I'm getting to the limits of my what I'm able to recreate. So basically we're just stomping to the end now. So yeah, we're just stomping up, we're getting this amazing effect. And then dropping down. So it's all a bit much, isn't it? You can't sustain that energy forever. So they cut it all back nicely and we just get a kick drum and the bass, more or less. And there's slightly more simple ting. So they've got all sorts of effects happening at the same time, which is why it sounds much better. So then we've got the final build up and they've got this mental sound coming in. So we've got this amazing riser, but then we've got this crazy sound that comes in at the drop. I mean, it's just absolutely nuts. So if you think I could recreate that perfectly, think again. But I got something, basically I want to show you the process that I think is a bit of an insight into kind of the way they would have done it. Another synth I came across in my research that I think they used, or they may well have used, is called a synthy. It's an English synth. They're very rare, but there's this software equivalent by Arturia. Yeah, it looks like battleships. It does my head in to try and program it, but I got a tiny bit more familiar with it. So what I did, I found a crazy sound. And you can see this is all automation. So what I did, I just found a crazy sound and I just turned knobs. I just went nuts. So I made this basically long sample of just chaos. Yeah, so I made that and then I experimented with just looping a bar of that. So I had a few different ones. So they don't sound like the record, but they're kind of quite cool in their own right. So that's one of them. Do you know what I mean? They're kind of quite cool. And the one I kind of chose, they've got this crazy sound. And I've got my own different but quite crazy sound. So we've got the crazy sound. We don't have the ting sha, but we've got the bass, the fast kick, this Thomas Chrome, the flute and the cymbals. They're dropping a lot out to make room for the insanity sound. And then we're on the home stretch now. So that's the drop with that. And then the Asian workshop sample comes back in. Well as, I forgot to put it in, but they don't keep the insanity going for too long. It's just like a 16 bar and then they drop it out again. And we bring back the Asian workshop sample. We also have this diva. And they've got yet another samba rhythm. So yeah, we're just going towards the end now. Then finally, we have this sound which is listed in Who Sampled. So it's listed as this, Cedar Room. And it does sound like it. So let's have a listen to the track. So it's evidently a fast LFO and the rate is being played with. And if we listen to it here, does sound like it. I couldn't get it to sound like this though. So I put it in. Yeah, I'm a bit frustrated. So the rhythm is kind of right, but the sound is different. I did try with a resonator. I think maybe it's a phaser. I don't know. I don't know how they got that sound, I'm afraid. And then we just move on to the kind of the outro. So with that sound, and we've got this diva sound. Got some cymbals as well. It sounds like a lot of distortion as well, because you can hear it on its own. So there you have it, the Sunshine Underground. Really hope you found that helpful. I found it fascinating to dissect, as always. Thanks so much for watching. All right, have a great day and see you next time. Cheers.